I never thought I'd be scared of the sea. I grew up near the coast, spent summers on boats, thought I knew water, but nothing could prepare me for the night shift on the cruise ship. My name's Alex, 23, former college student, now working as night crew. My first week was uneventful, too quiet actually, until the storm hit. It was around 2:50 a.m. when I noticed something strange. A passenger room showed occupied on the manifest, but when I peeked inside, it was empty. Not just empty, completely bare, like it had never been used. I shook it off as a system glitch and continued my rounds. Then I saw it. A shadow crawling along the outside hull, visible through a small porthole. It moved too smoothly, almost as if the water itself was dragging it across the metal. I froze, heart racing. I blinked, and it was gone. No waves, no splash, nothing, just the dark sea. I tried calling the bridge, but the radio was dead. The emergency lights flickered, throwing the narrow corridor into strobing shadows. Every instinct screamed to run, but I was alone, trapped on this massive ship with something watching me. Then the manifest glitched again. More rooms showed occupants that didn't exist. And that's when I realized the ship wasn't just carrying passengers. Something else was moving among us, hidden in plain sight, and it wasn't human. The storm worsened. Wind howled like angry spirits. Rain battered the deck, and the ship groaned under the waves. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every turn I took down the corridor, every creak of the metal floors made me flinch. I decided I had to check the deck. I needed proof, or at least some explanation. The doors to the outside were slick with rain, and the wind nearly pushed me back as I stepped onto the deck. Everything was empty except the dark horizon and the chaos of the storm. And then I saw them, figures moving in the shadows. They weren't human, too tall, limbs too long, faces hidden by something dark that shimmered in the lightning. They crawled along the railing, their movements jerky yet purposeful, like predators playing with prey. My breath caught, and my phone slipped from my hand into the water below. I stumbled back inside, heart pounding. The manifest blinked again. More occupied rooms appeared. And then it hit me. Somehow these things weren't just outside. They could be anywhere on the ship, and I was alone. The radio finally buzzed. A voice, distorted, almost whispering, said, "Check the lower decks before it's too late." My stomach dropped. I wanted to run, to hide, but something in that voice kept me moving. I took a deep breath, grabbed a flashlight, and headed down. Every step echoed like a drum in a tomb. I reached the lower decks, cold, damp, and empty, but the shadows moved, always moving. And then I heard it, a wet, dragging sound, coming closer. I froze, listening, unable to breathe. And I realized the ship wasn't just haunted. It was alive. I stumbled back into the corridor, soaked to the bone, every nerve on fire. My heart was hammering, each beat echoing in my skull. The storm outside seemed to quiet down for a moment, almost as if the ship itself was holding its breath. But I knew better. The silence was worse than the wind. It meant they were waiting. I tried calling the bridge. The radio crackled, static at first. Then nothing, no response. Panic clawed at me, but I forced myself to think. I needed a plan, any plan. If I could make it to the lifeboat deck, maybe I could signal someone, maybe a rescue boat or a passing ship. But the corridors felt wrong, like they'd stretched or shifted while I wasn't looking. Turning a corner, I froze. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, tall, impossibly thin, glowing eyes fixed on me. Its limbs bent in ways that made my stomach turn. It didn't move, just watched. I held my breath, hoping it would vanish, but it didn't. Then the whisper came again, closer this time, inside my head. "You don't belong here." I screamed and ran. Every step, every turn seemed to warp the ship further. Hallways twisted into each other, stairs leading to impossible angles, doors opening onto walls. My mind started to bend with it, doubt clawing at my sanity. Was I even awake, or had the storm, the manifest, the shadows pulled me into some nightmare realm? Finally, I reached the lifeboat deck. I yanked open the door and stepped outside. The rain had stopped, replaced by an eerie fog. The sea stretched black and endless beneath me, waves glowing faintly under a silver moon. And then I saw them, the figures, dozens of them, emerging from the fog, crawling over the sides, moving across the water as if the ship and sea were one living thing. One of them stopped and turned to me. Its face, or what passed for a face, was pale, elongated, with hollow eyes. It tilted its head like it was studying me, and for a moment I felt understood. Not empathy, but a recognition, as if it knew I had seen too much. I ran back inside, the deck door slamming behind me. The fog seemed to press against the glass, fingers of mist trying to claw in. I needed to reach the captain, the bridge, anyone who could help. But every hallway now seemed endless, repeating. I passed the same rooms, the same doors over and over. I couldn't tell if I was moving forward or backward. Then I heard it, a sound that made my blood run cold. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, moving just behind me. I turned, flashlight shaking, and saw them. Not one, but several. Slender, inhuman, almost liquid in motion. They followed, but never closed the distance, like they were toying with me. I stumbled into a room I didn't recognize. It was a storage closet, cramped and dimly lit. I threw the door closed, pressing my back against it, trying to catch my breath. The flashlight flickered, then died. I was in darkness, the whispers growing louder, echoing inside my skull. "You shouldn't be here. You'll never leave." I fumbled with my phone for light. When I finally turned it on, I saw writing on the walls, smeared as if etched with water and blood. "All manifests lead here. All passengers belong to us." My stomach lurched. The ship itself was speaking. I wanted to run, but my legs refused. The closet door rattled. I could hear them outside, their breathing wet, inhuman, merging with the ship. I had to act. I kicked the door open, flashlight held high, and ran blindly, following the echo of the storm, the only path I recognized, the outer deck. When I finally emerged, the fog had thickened. The figures were gone, but the sense of eyes on me remained, watching from the water, the sky, everywhere at once. I ran to the railing, gasping, trying to see anything human, anything normal. But all I could see was darkness, stretching infinitely. And then I heard it, a faint metallic tapping, something or someone on the hull below me. I leaned over, heart pounding, and caught a glimpse of a face pressed against the metal, eyes blacker than the night, mouth twisted into a grin. Before I could react, it disappeared into the waves, leaving only ripples and silence. I knew then that I would never be safe, not on this ship, not anywhere near the sea. Whatever was aboard, whatever had claimed those names on the manifest, was waiting, watching, and it would come for me again.
The wind had picked up again, slamming against the hull like a living thing. I had to get to the bridge. Somehow, I knew that if I didn't, whatever had claimed the manifest would catch me, and I wouldn't survive. The fog swirled around the lifeboat deck, hugging my legs like icy fingers. Each step I took sounded deafening, echoing over the metal surface. I reached the stairs leading down to the main deck. The ship groaned under the weight of the storm, and for a moment, I thought the vessel itself might be alive. Something shifted in the fog, and I froze. Out of the mist, a figure emerged. Not tall this time, but hunched, crawling like a spider, moving impossibly fast across the deck. Its eyes reflected the lightning overhead, two slivers of white cutting through the darkness. I turned and ran, heart hammering, feet slipping on wet metal. Behind me, the scraping of claws on the hull followed, relentless. I reached a maintenance hatch leading to the interior, yanking it open and dropping inside. Darkness swallowed me. I could hear the storm above, the waves thrashing, and somewhere, nearby, the whispers, more insistent now, overlapping, twisting into a chorus of voices not meant for human ears. I stumbled through the corridors, past doors I recognized but couldn't open, past stairwells that ended in walls, past hallways repeating endlessly. Then I saw it, the ship's manifest room. The door was slightly ajar, flickering lights spilling out. Something pulled me toward it. I had no choice. Inside, the room was empty, but the air was thick, heavy, and alive. Papers fluttered as if caught in a breeze that didn't exist. And then I saw the monitor. Names. All the passengers, scrolling endlessly. Faces appeared on the screen, but they weren't human, distorted, hollow-eyed, smiling grotesquely. One name blinked in red. Mine. My stomach turned cold. Before I could react, the lights went out. Darkness enveloped me, pressing against my skin. Then, a whisper from every corner. "We are the ship, and the ship is us." I fumbled for my flashlight, finally clicking it on. The beam caught movement, hundreds of figures crawling out of walls, floors, even the ceiling, their bodies twisting unnaturally. They advanced slowly, methodically. I turned to run, but the door slammed shut on its own. Panic surged. My back hit the cold metal wall, flashlight trembling. Then, I remembered the emergency hatch that led to the captain's quarters. If I could reach it, maybe I could lock myself in, call for help, something, anything. I forced the door open, sprinting through tight passages. Figures followed, whispering, the sound like 1,000 breaths in my skull. I reached the captain's quarters and slammed the door. It locked automatically. I pressed my back against it, gasping, and tried to steady my shaking hands. The emergency radio was there. I grabbed it, dialing the Coast Guard. Static. Nothing. Then a whisper, right in my ear. "Why call them? They can't help you." I froze, flashlight swinging. The room seemed to stretch, grow taller, the ceiling disappearing into blackness. Shadows gathered in the corners, moving closer. I had to act. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and swung it at the nearest figure. The impact made a hollow thud. It recoiled, but didn't stop advancing. I noticed the emergency ladder leading to the bridge window. It was a long shot, but it was my only chance. I climbed, flashlight in hand, heart racing. At the top, I smashed the window and crawled through. The bridge was empty, monitors blinking, storm raging outside. I tried the radio again. This time, a voice cut through. "Mayday! Mayday! This is the Sea Serpent! Do you read?" I repeated my position, desperate. Static. Then a whisper, right in my ear. "You belong to the ship now." I spun, but there was no one. Only the storm, the endless fog, the black water below. The monitors flickered, showing a dozen new faces, all distorted, all watching me. And then I realized the storm wasn't outside, it was inside. The ship itself was alive, feeding on fear, drawing me deeper into its heart. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts. If I survived this night, I knew one thing. I could never, ever set foot on that ship again. The Sea Serpent was no ordinary vessel. It was a predator, and I was its prey. I grabbed the lifeboat's signal kit, praying for rescue. A flash of lightning illuminated the deck below. Figures were moving, clustering near the hull. One lifted its head and stared directly at me. Hollow eyes, a grin. And in that moment, I understood. I wasn't running from them anymore. I was running with them, part of a nightmare I could never escape. I froze on the bridge, staring at the grotesque faces flickering on the monitors. The storm outside pounded against the hull like a monstrous drum. My heart was a hammer in my chest. I had to move. There was no turning back. I grabbed the lifeboat kit, fumbling to open the container. The moment I lifted the flare gun, a cold, crawling feeling grazed my neck. I spun around. Nothing. Just shadows in the corners, whispering, "The ship knows." I knew then. I couldn't just signal for help. If the Coast Guard came, they'd never reach me. The Sea Serpent controlled the waters around it, pulling everything inside its wake. Escape wasn't a matter of distance. It was a matter of wit, of timing, of survival. I bolted toward the aft deck, where I remembered seeing a maintenance lifeboat. The storm intensified, waves crashing against the hull, soaking me in icy water. Lightning illuminated the deck, and I caught sight of them again, figures with impossible limbs crawling faster than physics should allow. Their whispers grew louder, incoherent, yet somehow understandable. "Stay, stay, stay forever." I reached the lifeboat, fumbling with the latch. My hands were numb, shaking uncontrollably. A figure lunged at me. Reflexively, I swung the flare gun and a burst of fire hit the figure. It screamed, or maybe it was the wind, but it recoiled, disappearing into the mist. I didn't have time to dwell. I jumped into the lifeboat. The moment I hit the water, the ship shuddered. It wasn't just rocking anymore. It was alive. The hull seemed to bend, the deck elongating unnaturally. Figures emerged from the water like sharks, only wrong. Limbs bent backwards, faces grinning grotesquely. I paddled as fast as I could, adrenaline surging, ignoring the cold, the waves, the storm tearing at my tiny vessel. Every time I looked back, the Sea Serpent seemed closer. The bridge towered like a dark monolith, figures crawling out of windows, reaching for me. I fired the flare gun into the sky, screaming for help, my voice lost in the roar of the storm. Lightning illuminated the horizon, and in one flash, I saw the water around me, a swirling mass of hands and faces, reaching, grasping, pulling at the lifeboat. I kicked harder. I had to reach the open sea, away from the ship's influence. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed. Time was meaningless. Eventually, I saw lights in the distance. A Coast Guard vessel? Salvation? I waved frantically, fire from the flare gun painting the night. The figures stopped at the edge of the ship's wake. They stared, motionless, whispering as one, "Not yet, not yet." I didn't look back. I paddled harder than I ever had, fueled by pure terror. The ship, the figures, the storm, they were behind me. I hoped it would stay that way. Hours later, soaked, shivering, I was pulled aboard the Coast Guard vessel. They asked questions, took notes, but their eyes held disbelief. I couldn't blame them. It sounded insane. I was silent, just staring at the dark horizon. The Sea Serpent was gone from view, but in my chest, I knew it was still out there, waiting, watching. I left the vessel the next day, staying in a small coastal town for a week. I didn't sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the whispers, felt the icy crawl of limbs across my back. It wasn't over. It would never be over. One night, I woke up to the sound of foghorns in the distance. I went to the balcony, heart pounding. There it was, the Sea Serpent, just off the shore, its hull cutting through the fog like a predator stalking prey. I froze, knowing what it wanted. My name was still on the manifest. I ran inside, locked every door, barricaded every window. But I knew it didn't matter. The ship had me marked. The Coast Guard wouldn't help this time. No one could. I grabbed my phone to warn someone, anyone, but the screen went black. A whisper right behind me. "You belong to the ship now."
I spun around. Empty room, but I could hear the water lapping against the hull, closer now, and I realized with a chill that froze my blood, it wasn't the sea serpent in the distance that was the danger, it was the one already inside. The last thing I remember before everything went black was the icy fingers of fog curling around my ankles, pulling me toward the dark, black water of the living ship. And then, silence.